Hello. Welcome again to another issue of Selling Hobson by the Pound. I'm very serious today because I went on a hike earlier, and that usually just chills me out. But you know what? I've got some amazing things for you guys today. We're on, how can I say it? A King Super analog roll, really. And in the last episode, I can't remember whether it was for the Music 24 test pressings, but for those people that saw the previous episode where I introduced the King Super Analog stuff, records, I'll give a brief overview. King Record Company, Japan, really arguably one of the first, let's call it audiophile reissue labels, although they didn't really tout themselves that way. They just were about high quality. They had their own high quality mastering system, modified cutting system that cut square waves that were nearly perfect compared with others. And if the geeks among you know that that's an indication of how accurate the system was, amplifiers and so forth. So they had this reputation starting out in the 70s. They mainly reissued things from on the classical side anyway, from the Decca catalog, Decca London catalog, through Polydor KK, which was the affiliate in Japan that handled, I think, the Decca Records catalog for the normal Japanese market. So King would have been a reissue company, like Classic Records, really. And so they reissued all these wonderful Decca recordings, a lot of which were done at Kingsway Hall. A lot were done by Kenneth Wilkinson. You know, the normal great sound that we have all known to come and expect from the Decca recordings in the golden era, right? In the late 50s all the way into the 70s, arguably. Anyway, so the other part about this was that they reissued records and pressed them at JVC in Japan. And for those people that know about legendary pressing plants, JVC was the place and probably is the litmus test of all pressing plants since then, to be honest. They just had, I don't know how they did it. Maybe it was the vinyl formula, maybe it was the machines. But the truth is they pressed the quietest records I've ever heard, to be honest. And we always strived for that level of quiet surfaces at Classic Records. And, you know, I don't think we ever quite got to the JVC level, but that was certainly what we were always shooting for. Anyway, all of that said, here's some more of those King Record Company reissues. I mentioned last time that when they first started out, they were doing regular weight pressings, but still absolutely stunning quality and really quiet surfaces. And the first two are very famous recordings. Peer Gynt with Feldstad, London Symphony. This is a very famous recording. I think it's one of the either rated 19 or 20 on the scale of great Decca recordings. But this is a normal weight pressing, but absolutely fantastic. And then here's a Antonio Vivaldi with Mariner and Academy and St. Martin in the Fields. This is, they put them out, you know, again, authentic London labels, right? And beautiful, beautiful recording. And here, I said at some point, last time I said this, but at some point they switched over to 180 gram pressings. And so here's an example of Puccini's Tosca. And this is a very famous performance. This is a sealed copy of same. And this is when they went to the Super Analog series of disc, or Super Analog disc they call it. So quite often these are referred to as King Super Analogs because they're the 180 gram versions. But this is a sealed copy from my collection. There you go. Here is Stravinsky, The Rite of Spring. And I don't know who the conductor is because the original OB is covering that up. I'm sorry about that. We could find that out. Anyway, here you go. Here is Zubin Mehta doing the famous performance of Also sprach Zarathustra. Big sound on this. This was done with the LA Phil, and I think that's a super disc list item. Here's Mazel doing Respighi, the Pines of Rome, and again, sealed copy. And I think I mentioned last time that these records are highly coveted, but impossible to find sealed. This is Albina's Suite Española de Burgos Philharmonia Orchestra, again, a sealed copy. We've got Mussorgsky Pictures at an exhibition. This is a famous recording by Ansemé and the Swiss Romand, which was his orchestra, the Swiss Romand. A lot of great Decca recordings were done with Ansemé and the Swiss Romand. A lot of these are like RM 1920 type recordings. So here's another Ansemé Swiss Romand doing Scheherazade, famous recording performance. Here is the Schubert String Quartet, Death and the Maiden, with the Vienna Philharmonic. Willy Boskovsky is the conductor. Again, all of these are sealed. This is the Mahler Second, the Resurrection, with Zubin Mehta and the Vienna Philharmonic on this one. This is another one of those. This is a 2-record set because Mahler Second's a long symphony. So 2-record set, sealed copy. Brahms Quintet and Wagner Adagio. This is Boskovsky and the members of the Vienna Octet. Again, sealed copy. By the way, I just want to stop and say that not only, I think these jackets are all tip-on jackets, which means that they were printed on paper and put onto cardboard. And then later on, most other companies went to this direct-to-board printing. In fact, Classic Records, when we first started, did that as well. But then we reinvigorated that with Stoughton Printing here in Los Angeles, which we went back to the more authentic approach with putting the paper on, that's called tip-on, right? Tip-on jackets, which now have kind of become the standard in the audiophile market. We started that. The reason I say that is because that's what King Super Analog was doing back in the 70s and 80s. So just to give you an indication. So here's Baroque Concert with Stuttgart Chamber Orchestra, things like Pachelbel Canon, the Albinoni Adagio, Handel, Arrival of the Queen of Sheba, and so forth. And here we go. Münchener Stuttgart Chamber Orchestra. And here's Gulda doing Beethoven Piano Concerto No. 4 with the Vienna Philharmonic. Horst Stein is the conductor. Famous performance. Berlioz Symphonie Fantastique, Montu, Vienna Philharmonic. Let's see, say anything about the year. It doesn't say it here. But what I was also going to say is quite often, of course, sometimes they're in Japanese, but King Super Analog, they put in every one of the sleeves, they also put information about the recording. A lot of times the recording date as well, which often was not. Maybe you get a year sometimes on the original Decca releases or London releases or whatever, but they actually put the date on it and often where it was recorded, like if it was at Walthamstow or Kingsway or whatever. So it's kind of nice you get some of that information inside. And anyway, Dvorak 8th, Cortez London Symphony Orchestra, again another famous Decca recording. I mean, some of these on original SXLs bring hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So sealed copy. Mendelssohn No. 3, along with the Fingal's Cave Overture, Moog, LSO. This is a famous recording as well. Trying to remember whether this is one that we put out on Gold CD. It might be, but this is one of those big sounding recordings as well. Beautiful, sealed. Now, I said before last time, and I'll say it again, most of the recordings, at least the ones that I've come across, by King Record Company and then King Super Analog, which was their how they're referred to when the 180-gram versions. Most were classical, as I said, from the Decca record company. But they did do other stuff. So here's an example. This is Elegant Evening, George Shearing, Mel Torme. The sound on this is ridiculous. This was originally on Concord Records, so they licensed from Concord on this. And then this is not a classical. Well, it is classical, but this is famous film music with the London Festival Orchestra and Chorus. This was originally put out on Phase 4, right? You got a little Phase 4 down there. So this is a Decca recording, but of film music, and it's like music from Casablanca, A Man and a Woman, theme from Intermezzo, music, Blood and Sand. Again, really, really great Phase 4 recording. Decca tree, the whole thing. But yeah, very nice, classical, but non-traditional. Let's call it that way. And then, to round out this week's offering, a couple of things you guys would never expect. Here is Never Say Never, new album from Brandy featuring The Boy Is Mine and Top of the World and Have You Ever, sealed copy. So if you don't have this, was out on Atlantic Records originally, but here's a sealed copy of it, and that'll probably light things up a little bit. And here we go. A couple of Ice-T records. You're going to love this. This is a maxi single, Ice-T, doing 3 songs on each side. I'm Your Pusher, a cappella. I'm Your Pusher, the LP version. I'm Your Pusher, the instrumental version. And yeah, so this is Ice-T circa 80? Goodness gracious. I can't see the P and C on the back on Sire Records. But that's vintage Ice-T. And then we've got Ice Cube, a single that's got Really Doe instrumental. My Skin Is My Sin, and My Skin Is My Sin. And this is on Priority Records, 1983 it looks like. So vintage Ice Cube as well. So there you go. Fun stuff. Hope you have a fun time bidding on it. Good luck.